Did you know that the Tree Doctor has saved trees at the only AA recording studio in the state of Arkansas? It's true, we're going to take you there. Plus, Ed Dickey's got some tips on how you can take care of your trees. It's all coming up after these messages on Tree Doctors.
It's not hard to see what killed these trees. It was boreworms. The borer is a hard insect to control, virtually untouched with spraying and other applications. But with systemic injection, when the borer eats the borer dies. Trees are dying all over, but we've got the cure. We give a 1-year guarantee when we treat your trees for the borers. We've been doing this 35 years and we know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the Tree Doctors, Dickey Tree Service, in your yellow pages under trees. Hello, I'm Ed Dickey, the Tree Doctor at Dickey Tree Service. I'm coming to you from inside of a tree. We've been getting inside of trees for 35 years. We get to the root of the problem. Give us a call. We know how to save your trees. We put the chemical where it needs to be, inside your tree, taking care of insect and disease problems. We're often imitated, but never duplicated. We've been doing this 35 years. We know what we're doing. Give us a call. We're the Tree Doctors, Dickey Tree Service.
Let's catch up with Ed Dickey, the head tree doctor at Dickey Tree Service right now and see what's going on out in the Mid-South.
I'm here with Miss O'Donnell in Batesville, and a couple years ago she called me in to work on these trees. And Miss O'Donnell, why don't you tell our viewers kind of what was going on with them at the time?
Well, when the ice storm hit, my hardwoods were hit very hard. And when I had the man to trim them and to clean them up, he pointed out a problem that I had some beetles in them. And that he recommended you and said that you were the only one in the state he knew of. And so I contacted you and had you come out to treat my trees because I've got too many here to lose.
Yes, ma'am. She had the boring beetles in there, and she's got some nice pine trees as well as the hardwoods, the oaks. And can you tell trees look a whole lot better since we did that?
They're looking very healthy, very healthy.
Yes, ma'am. And I want to mention that you also have a ministry here at your home, don't you?
Yes, I do. I have a teaching center called Reconciliation Ministries, and I teach every Monday night at 7 o'clock. It's not advertised, it's just for those who desire to come.
Yes, ma'am. Well, that's great. Another thing I want our viewers to know, you had me put a lightning arrestor. You have got a tree kind of close to your main office here at your home, and you had me put a lightning arrestor. Do you feel a little better at ease when it storms since you got that in?
I feel more secure with it. Yes, I do.
Yes, ma'am. I tell people you get a secure feeling from it, and I got them at the office. I've mentioned a lot of times on the program. But your trees, you have several here, and have you ever done a count on how many trees you do have in your yard?
I really haven't.
I think if my memory's right, I think there's 60-something in the yard, so that's quite a few trees. Well, Miss O'Donnell, I want to thank you for taking a minute to talk about your trees, and hopefully in the future we'll come back and they'll still be looking good.
Well, I'm believing they will be.
Thank you so much. The crew's here spraying a spider mite problem that these spruces have. And when we spray, we add a vitamin, minerals, enzymes, as well as insecticide, but we also add a surfactant. What a surfactant does, it causes the water to be a little wetter and to stick to the whatever we're spraying. Now, a homeowner can do that when they do their spraying, whether they're spraying Roundup or insecticide or fungicide, it doesn't matter. Just add about a couple tablespoons of dish washing liquid to their sprayer, and that causes the water to be just a little wetter, stick just a little better, and that's working man's surfactant. The surfactant we use costs quite a bit, but this does exactly the same thing, and just doesn't have that name on it. You throw surfactant on it, they'll charge you a bunch more for it. But that's precisely what that is. Keep that in mind when you're spraying around your home with a sprayer or doing maintenance on your trees. You make it stick just a little better, and by sticking better, you get a longer lasting protection for your trees. This week, our show is going to be mainly about a shot up in Drasco, Arkansas at Rainey's recording studio, and we're going to drop a tree tip in now and then too. And as we go further on, you're going to understand how the recording studio and the tree doctor and what they have in common. I'm here in Drasco, way back in the hills, and a lot of people aren't aware of the nice recording studio that's here. It's got Rainey's recording studio, and there's a lot of history here, and we're going to through this whole program, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the trees here and the people here and what they do here. And here with me right now is the head, one of the head guys here at Rainey Recording is John Rainey. And tell me a little bit about yourself, John.
Hello, it's good to see you, Dickey. Well, I've been the chief engineer here at the studio about 12 years now. I've been engineering close to 20 years. We've got a Class A studio here. It's a kind of a blend between analog equipment and digital. We have the newest HD Pro Tools, the Excel version, the newest one. I've got a Quad 8 Virtuoso console. It's got the moving fader automation. New, it's about a $200,000 console. Really sounds good. Alan Jackson actually cut one of his records on it. Merle Haggard, several different big artists when it was in Nashville. We bought it about 5 years ago, and I've been using it ever since.
That's right about the time I was up here with a project, a little after that, I think. You've had a lot of singers in here, and I talked to your dad a little bit about the other workings of the studio here, the mastering and duplication. But tell me some of the name singers that some of my viewers might have recognized here in the last 5 years that you've had.
Well, I'm not sure if there's anybody that is in national attention, but we have had a little bit of success here lately. We found out a couple of weeks ago that we won the Country Single of the Year in New Music Weekly. A new artist from Pennsylvania we recorded. His name is Anthony Michael James. The name of the song that won the award was Old Friends. Actually, the guy that I produced with is also one of my staff players. His name is Doug DeForest. He is also the bass player, and he sang harmony on it, several different things. We do a lot of gospel groups, a lot of bluegrass, country, and a lot of the artists that we work with are, just beginning. A lot of the major artists, a lot of times we don't get those folks here, I think more or less because of convenience. They have studios in their homes, or they live close to Nashville or close to some big metropolitan city that has a lot of studios to offer. But every once in a while we get a few in here, but not a lot.
Yes, sir. And what I would like to mention too, this is not a real high-priced cost project type thing. You can actually, since you're out here where you are at, you can pass that savings on to the people. And I have never heard a bad recording that I've heard that came out of here.
Well, we'll take that as a compliment. We work hard at trying to keep the quality level of our recording, at least with what is considered standard level, if not above, at all times. And our rates are very competitive. You can rent this studio based on a day rate for $650 a day. There's no way you could do the same thing in Nashville. It costs you twice that in Nashville.
If not more, that's right.
If not more, for the same caliber of recording and equipment and expertise.
Now you keep A-class musicians on call too to back up a singer if they want to do a project here, don't you?
Sure do. I've got a great staff of players. I usually use a 5-member band as a general rule. They can cover electric guitar, steel guitar, acoustic, fiddle, mandolin, keyboard, piano, orchestration, acoustic bass, electric bass, drums, percussion. These guys are really good. We've really been fortunate the last couple of years. We started using Mike Kennedy. He's actually George Strait's drummer. He's been with George for about 15 years, and he come on board with us about 2 years ago, and we're really pleased to have him with us. He does a great job, wonderful drummer. All my guys are Class A. They're really good people besides being great musicians.
Yes, sir. That means a lot. Easy to work with and easy to convey what you want to do to them.
Yeah, they're good, always good to the clients, and they always turn out wonderful tracks that I'm proud to have my name on.
Yes, sir. And like you said, that's no slouch winning the the award on that recent song. Another thing, your dad mentioned that y'all become a AA studio here recently, haven't you?
Yes, sir. That's a rating that you get from NAB. It's based on equipment and based on the amount of space, the rooms that you have, and the tuning of the rooms. It all has to come together to get that rating class.
Right, and there's just a couple in Nashville that falls into that, isn't it?
Just a handful, sure is.
Yes, sir. But if most people don't know where Drasco is, we're just, how far are we from Heber?
About 15 minutes. We're pretty close. The lake is also a nice draw for us because a lot of folks like to come and record. They can bring their families and treat it as like a mini vacation while we're working on their records.
Right. You even have facilities here for that if they need that, don't they, to stay over?
We sure do. We sure can. We can provide them facilities to hook up their buses or their campers if they bring them. And if we know enough ahead of time, sometimes we can also provide them lodging here. If they're more comfortable, there's plenty of motels that are within 15 minutes of here as well. So it really depends on the client. We try to treat everything unique and cater to each individual client to make sure we meet their needs.
You can't argue with that. How many years total has the studio been in operation, even before you? How long?
Well, my grandfather started Rimrock Records in 1956, I believe. That was way before I was born. And it ran for close to 30 years before it was sold to Stax in the early 70s. And then this studio was first began in a very demo stage in 1982. But it really wasn't up to the standard it is now until probably about 1990, about 14 years ago.
Right. I talked to your father, Zendel, at length about your granddad, Wayne, because I knew of him, and if other people don't, they miss something. But he just showed me out there that y'all are putting out some CDs that people can get free to come here to visit your facility, and you're going to get some good music to listen to here in Wayne, because he was an entertainer, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I wish he could have lived to seen the studio and the rest of the business grow and prosper and become what it has. I think he would really be proud of it. It's really a legacy to him.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you taking a minute talking to me, John, and we're going to be showing a bunch of shots of it. And the biggest part of my show is going to be about y'all's studio, because it's such a big, massive conglomerate, I should say, here that it's going to take quite a bit to cover it. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you again, Dickey. It sure is good to see you, buddy, and we appreciate everything.
Thank you. Zendel, tell me a little bit about your dad, Wayne Rainey.
Well, of course, Wayne Rainey was better known as a songwriter and, of course, disc jockey. And they put him in the Western Swing Hall of Fame.
Yes, sir.
And, of course, he's in the Hall of Fame here in Arkansas. It's located in Pine Bluff. And also in Missouri, just outside of West Plains, Missouri. In fact, I believe that Hall of Fame is closer to Mammoth Springs, I believe. But of course, he spent his whole life as an entertainer.
Right.
Started in 1934, and sold Rimrock Manufacturing Company, and I believe that was in 74 or 75. 75, I believe it was.
Now, what did they make?
That was a pressing plant. We had 83 presses up there, and finally wound up just before he retired with 405 employees. It was a fairly large.
A big
fairly large. Yeah, it wasn't like this company here. I've only got 33 employees here, but it's as big as I want to go.
Yes, sir.
But Dad was better known, I suppose, as a songwriter. Why Don't You Haul Off and Love Me was one of the #1 songs that he had written. And Blues Stay Away From Me, which was one of the Team Rider songs with Rayburn and Delmore, the Delmore brothers, Rayburn and Alton. And they did stuff like Greenback Dollar, of course, the Blues Stay Away From Me, Midnight Special. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that, yes, sir.
Wolfman Jack used it as a theme song.
Yeah, it was
on
his theme song.
Friday night show. And then Creedence Clearwater had a pretty good hit on it there at one time back in the 70s. And Of course, with Lefty Roselle, well, they did a thing called "If You Got the Money, Honey, I Got the Time."
Right.
And first one thing another, but that was his claim to fame. Those, of course, which is still in the entertainment business, you know.
Right. Well, I remember him also selling harmonicas. How many of those reckon he sold?
Well, I'm not positive. The only 3 years I was with him was 58, 59, and 60. In those 3 years, we sold 5 million of them. And
$1 a piece and $1
at
in them.
$1 a piece. Of course, the reason we could do that, he owned a half interest in William Kratt Company out of New York, which we built all the parts for Hohner at that time. They didn't have a manufacturing company. They had an assembling factory, but not a manufacturing company. So we built all their parts up until about, I believe about 64, somewhere along in there, 65 maybe. And then they started producing their own parts and pieces at that point. I don't know what year that Mr. Kratt himself started building those parts. Of course, he was from Germany, and he had run that company ever since he had reached the United States back right at the turn of the century.
Right.
Something like that.
That is really interesting. Yeah, your father was, well, you carried on the music business here, and of course the viewers is going to see some of the studio and other shots as we go on too. But what's your main thing you do here now? I know John, your son, takes care of the control room, but what do you do?
Well, yeah, John has been with me now about 12 years, and he started training back several years ago, and he's really gotten good. As a matter of fact, he's gotten past the point where I even know after it got in the digital end of things, then I got to the age I didn't want to go back to school and relearn, you know, back as long as it was all analog, and dealing with analog machines and schematics and running troubleshoots on those things when they had to be fixed. Well, I'm your man, you know, but after it reached digital, then I sort of give up on it. Well, John took over at that point, and we finally wound up with a AA rating here in this studio. And of course, we have CD duplication, cassette duplication, and all that's located in these buildings down here. And there's a print shop, which we do about 10 million CD fronts, backs, and cassettes per year. That's the picture that goes inside the CD box and
That's
the cassette box.
That's the whole package there. How many albums do y'all run through a year here on average?
Normally on the sessions, we will do about 150 sessions, full album sessions here. But in the computer, we have about 12,000 other companies and studios listed in there that we do product for.
Right, that you're associated with, right?
And I suppose, you know, I'd really have to go back to the office and find out exactly the amount on that, but I suppose it probably reaches in that between 40 and 50 million a year for everyone across the United States.
Oh, sure. What I wanted to try to get across, Zendel, is that a person can come here with their very limited amount of stuff on tape and turn it over to John, and y'all get the session pickers in here and turn it into something beautiful.
Yes, there's several musicians that work here that signed up. The A band, which consists of Timmy Crouch, Robbie Springfield, and of course Dennis Crouch, who was Timmy's brother, it's on bass, and Doug Driesel, he's one of the promoters, plus arrangers, part of the backup singers. And then the Nashville Now singers that used to work for Ralph Emery, they're out of Nashville. They are signed up here as vocal background singers. The drummer that we mainly use in the A band is George Strait's drummer. He's out of Texas. And of course, I can't list all of them. I don't know all of them. Just tell you the truth, we did a tribute album to Old Blue Eyes. Let's see, what's
Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra, and used a 22-piece orchestra on that. and which was quite a venture to get that thing put together, you know.
Oh, I bet. Well, everything I've heard coming out of here is quality recording. In fact, I have used your business in years past, just like you used mine on me treating your trees. Y'all did a years ago. I come up with a called a roost buster, where it scared birds from trees, and the recording was done at my studio, and y'all did the pressing.
Yes.
And that's still being sold today.
That's great.
Here's a tip a nice lady passed on to me about how she takes care of her peach tree. She hangs these little miniature size aluminum pie shell holders around there, and the wind blows them, and the reflectiveness keeps the squirrels down. She also uses some dog hair. Cat hair work equally as well, and you kind of place it up in a tree, and so they'll smell it and sprinkle a little bit around the bottom. But another guy I know up right outside of Dexter, he's got some little plastic holders that holds mothballs, and that keeps the deer. He has a bad deer problem up in there from coming up eating his fruit and eating on his trees. So there's a lot of ways to keep these critters away from your fruit or your tree if you just check it out. That's a tip for you.
I'm here enjoying the shade under this big elm right here next to the White River. It's a cool place on a hot day. We'll be back with more on Tree Doctors right after these messages.
Let me tell you a little bit about the Roost Buster. It's Sonic Roost Buster. A few years ago, I came onto a place, and an elderly lady was sitting out in the backyard beating on the top of a garbage can, scaring her birds away. Now, you got to remember, this lady was in her 80s. Oh, my goodness. She was frail enough anyway, didn't need to be doing that. And then later on, I read in the newspaper in the city of Osceola, they cut down some magnificent old magnolia trees because of the roosting problem from the bird. Needless to say, it is a problem. The droppings carry diseases and a health hazard. So a few years ago, I developed this. This is all it is an hour and a half of different changing sounds with an underlying music bed that makes it better pleasing to the human ears. But as one man said, he said, if a guy can sit and listen to that for 90 minutes, he wouldn't stay in your yard. These are the same way with birds. But there's a lot of them around. A lot of cities use these, and they just check them out at your libraries, and like the city of Dexter, city of Sykeston, and even the city of Jonesboro has some. We offer it. You can get it from us by calling our 800 number. You actually get a CD player with it, and all you do is just sit it out in the yard, and after a couple of times, the birds don't roost there anymore, and very seldom come back, I found out. The roosting blackbirds and the problem birds. So if you're interested in that, in the next few segments, programs down the road, we'll tell you a little bit more about it.
We're going to catch up with Ed Dickey, and maybe he'll give us a few tips on how to take care of our trees right now on Tree Doctors.
I'm here in Hoxie, where a car lost control and sideswiped these two trees. These are maple trees. Most people aren't aware of it, but we can appraise these trees and tell the amount of damage is done, so the property owner can be reimbursed for the damage that gets done in cases like that. And in this case here, I forget what percent these appraised out at, but it was about 20% damage or something like that. But there's a formula we use, and it's recognized by the IRS and by insurance companies. So if you have a problem like that, there is a procedure we go through. There's a fee you pay to get them appraised, and generally you get that back when it's turned in the damage report. And that's called tree appraisals, which we've done for years and years, and we still do. So if you need that done, give us a call. Zenda, I want to thank you for walking us through your part of your plant. It'd take a half a day to cover everything you got here, but I noticed that you got some stuff out on your dad here on Wayne Rainey.
Yeah, these, of course, these masters I've had since the days of King Recording Company out of Cincinnati. And some of these were cut in Los Angeles, I believe, at Warner Brothers. but the biggest part of them were in Cincinnati and some of them in Nashville. And I thought, well, I'll go ahead and put these masters together in an album form, and I give them away. They're actually not for sale. People that wants to come and visit with us and talk a little bit. Well, I wind up, in fact, there's your set right there.
Well, I thank you, and I'll assure you they will be listened to, and they're very much appreciated.
Pleasure.
Like I said, I remember your dad pitching that harmonica in the magazines I looked at years ago.
Oh, yeah. We had been in that end of the business, like I was saying a little earlier. He has been since 1934, and I went with him myself in 1956, and that was doing radio programs and first one thing and another. And of course, like we was mentioned earlier, I went into the sales end of it in 58, and that's 59 and 60 on that end of it. That's selling the harmonicas.
Yes, sir. What year did Wayne pass away?
That we lost him 11 years ago this past January.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Zendel, as we looked around the property, we found one tree here the boars have got back in, and another one around front. You remember how long it been? A little over 5 years ago?
A little over 5, I do believe, Dickey. But I think we're very fortunate, don't you, that they haven't done any more damage than that?
Oh, you bet you. At the time of treatment, I gave Zendel a list of insecticides he could use on the trunk as preventive maintenance after my stuff wore off. And in the last 2 years, you said you hadn't done anything, have you?
Haven't done a thing. The particular spray that we got at that time, it got hard to get, so I should have got back hold of you last year, but I didn't. And but now you're back here again, so we'll get some this time.
Yeah, we'll get two birds with one throw here. That's on
right.
this. We'll get your studio, and we'll get your trees treated. Well, because I want to take care of your trees too. And also, you've had a tree just here the other day hit with lightning, didn't you?
Yes, it's right back this direction right here. It peeled the bark, I guess, for 20 feet down that tree. It looks like I'm going to have to take a chainsaw and cut that one side off.
Yes, sir. It's a fork tree, and he's just going to lose one side. But other than that, you've pretty well got all the same trees, don't you?
The same ones. You did an excellent job on doctoring these trees, and I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Well, you do a good job with your music. Thank you. We're here at in Bowdoin City Park. About 3 years ago, we treated every large tree here in this park, and we just stopped by to see how they're doing now, and they're all still doing good. They haven't lost a single tree. And if you buy over this way, check the park out. I think you'll see how our work pays off.
That's all the time we got today for Tree Doctors. For Ed Dickey, I'm John Passmore. If you have any questions, just log on to dickeytree.com. You can email Ed there. Call the number below. Either one will get you to the Tree Doctors. Thanks again. We'll see you next time on Tree Doctors.